Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this new video, and by the title of this video you can see this is gonna be a very somber and a little pessimistic video. And it's that my heroes, my childhood is dead. And I don't mean this in the typical, oh, I'm too old and all that and nothing excites me anymore. No. I still feel very strongly towards the franchises, the programs, the movies that I used to watch as a kid. These fictional whatever universes that were such an integral part of my childhood. And over the course of the past few years, they have been destroyed, maimed, butchered and bastardized beyond recognition. We're going to talk about these things today, and it pains me to do so. Now, as a child and as a teenager, I loved all kinds of sci-fi and fantasy movies, series, all of that. I loved Ben 10, I loved Star Wars, I loved The Lord of the Rings when I eventually got to see it because my parents didn't want to let me watch it for some reason. Maybe it was too dark, but I loved all these things. I loved cartoons, I loved superheroes. I still love superheroes, I still love sci-fi, I still love fantasy. But unfortunately, what was no longer is. I'd have to say that the downfall of all of my favorite media, I think it became more noticeable since 2015, and I noticed that a lot because prior to 2015, it was the year where everything changed for me. I was 14 years old at the time, and I've fallen out of love for certain things. I was no longer a big fan of Minecraft. It was 2015, 16, and 17 were very tough years for what I loved. I no longer watched Minecraft videos. I watched other things. I still held similar things to what I loved, but it changed. But it all began to twist and turn. You know, people were pushing for more inclusivity in media, and that's where the downward spiral began for everything. And Force Awakens began, and it wasn't that I liked the Force Awakens, and I still do enjoy it. I still do enjoy Force Awakens, watching it. As a Star Wars film, I don't really like it. But as a sci-fi movie, yeah, I enjoy it. But then it all started to go downhill everywhere I watched. Everywhere I saw, everything that I loved began to be corrupted, poisoned. Characters were being changed for no reason. Stories were being retconned, and everything began to be slowly changing. And people were like, oh, don't worry about it. Change is good. Change is that. This is just to be better people. This is to be progressive and all that. And that's where it all started. The problem, you gave them an inch and they took a mile. And that's where it all changed. Ever since 2015, I know that content that we are going to be discussing, content like that already existed prior to that. It's nothing new. Always shows have been politically influenced. They have always had themes and all that. It has always happened. But it began to be hammered down. It became forced ever since that time. And I'm going to talk about it for the franchises that I love. Now, the most notable and the one I feel most strongly about is Star Wars. Star Wars was my favorite franchise of all time. I've always loved Star Wars. I've always loved sci-fi. And seeing Star Wars become this bastardized version that I no longer love. It's hard for me because I remember every Saturday waking up early before church to watch Clone Wars, the cartoon. I loved Clone Wars. I remember I watched a whole marathon of all 6 films from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I remember watching as a kid. I hid the TV remote just so my parents couldn't change the channel, so I could watch the whole marathon of Star Wars films from 7 a.m. up until, I don't know, I think it was 7 p.m. or something. It was a long marathon because it had all 6 films, and I loved Star Wars so much. When I heard in 2014, 15 that there was going to be a 7th film, I was so ecstatic, and I loved it. I loved that there were going to be new Star Wars, and I watched The Force Awakens. I watched The Last Jedi. I watched The Rise of Skywalker. I watched Rogue One. I watched Solo. But things weren't the same. I have to say that when Disney bought Star Wars, it started the downfall of Star Wars. When all the companies started getting all political, that was a very, very, very bad thing for media. I remember that when I watched The Force Awakens, I was like, yeah, this is cool, this is pretty cool. When I watched The Last Jedi, I was like, oh yeah, it was fun, the whole see Luke thing. But then when I started to see what they had done with Star Wars, to see what had become, what Kathleen Kennedy did with Star Wars, I loved that franchise so much. It was such an integral part of my childhood. And to see it destroyed by agendas, by feminists, it's like Star Wars is about good and evil fighting the Sith, the Jedi. There is truly no in between, because if you really think, you say, oh, but the Great Jedi. The Great Jedi is a lie. Eventually, you will be tilted to one side or the other. There's no gray here. There's black and white. The Force and the dark side. And the dark side isn't even natural. So there's the Force. The Force has a will of its own. And then the dark side is a corruption of the Force. And then they started adding the son, the daughter, the father. And it's like, okay, what's going on? It's like, yeah, I love Dave Filoni, but I really resent the introduction of those Celestials as in aspects of the dark side. And yes, there are dark side aspects and all that, but to have those gods, it's like the Force is an entity in of itself, and I don't know why. And then, of course, Kathleen Kennedy with the Force is female, and it's like, okay, come on, what are you doing? Star Wars isn't supposed to be a political platform. It's fight of good and evil. It's that simple. But then here comes Kathleen Kennedy to completely destroy what I love. And I love Daisy Ridley, but unfortunately she was giving a very bad character. It's nothing we can do about it. Should have been written better. Like, there could have been so much potential in the sequels, but they squandered it all. And then they started making all these comics and weird stuff, and there's the High Republic, and then they started to going all pronouns, and it's like, what is going on with Star Wars? I don't know. Now, out of the different franchises, the one that arguably did better was Marvel. Marvel with the MCU actually did a lot of very good movies, and it was my lifeline to what I loved, the things that I loved, and it was the one that still was delivering entertainment. And if you hear some scuttling, that's the dog. He always does that. Anyway, Marvel with the MCU did very good movies for pretty much most of its run. Nowadays, Marvel is dead. The comics, the TV shows, the movies, they're failures. And it's really sad because I loved superhero. I always loved Marvel. They were always my go-to for superheroes. I didn't grow up with Superman or Batman. I grew up with Spider-Man and Iron Man and Captain America. Those were the guys that I grew up with. Yes, I watched DC stuff like Justice League, the series, but it wasn't the main thing. I watched Marvel mostly. And I have to say that Marvel started declining right after Endgame. So Endgame was, it was pretty good. It has some pretty good moments, but even then it started showing signs that the MCU was going to happen. You know, that whole scene with all the female heroines, that was completely unnecessary. It didn't add anything to the movie. It's not like what happened with Mandalorian, that just so happens that most of the team are women. They should have included the guy. I don't know why he wasn't included, but yeah, Gina Carano did amazing there. The whole, yeah, it was fun with Mandalorian at first. Then it all went to crap. But yeah, Marvel started off pretty strongly throughout the 2015, 16 and all that, with Civil War and all that stuff. And then after Endgame, it just complete failures here and there. Black Widow was trash. Eternals was mid. Multiverse of Madness was disappointing. The only movie I can say that I actually enjoyed was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I really enjoyed that one. Shang-Chi was meh, nothing special. The Loki TV series didn't connect with me. Hawkeye, I found it entertaining, but yeah, for the most part, Marvel has just gone downhill hard. And then you get to the stuff with the comics. The comics just went... They turned Peter Parker into a joke. They've been trying to replace him with Miles Morales. And no, and yeah, I get it that anyone can be Spider-Man, anyone can be Under the Mask, but Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. They are together, joined. It started with him. You can't just come ahead and replace him with Miles Morales, give him all the badass moments, and then turn Peter Parker into a joke that he has to be saved by freaking MJ that has been ruined over the past few years. It's just ludicrous to think that they can get away with this. It's like, oh, we're just gonna destroy your favorite hero. Because yes, Spider-Man is my favorite hero over all others. Spider-Man is the one that I always loved. I always loved Superman, I always loved Batman and all that, but Spider-Man was my hero. And to see him dragged through the dirt like he's some worthless piece of garbage is just insulting to me. It pisses me off what they have done with Marvel. Because superheroes are meant to give you hope for a better future. Superheroes are meant to be role models. And now all the superheroines, the heroines that they're giving us are complete and utter garbage. They are not role models. They are entitled brats who think, oh, it's like with She-Hulk. It's like She-Hulk was supposed to be this very feminine version of Hulk, very sure of herself. She was problematic in her own right because she always had problems with her love life. That was part of her character. It's like Hulk, he can never have a real family because he's Hulk. And the times that he has had one, it's just ruined for him, like Planet Hulk and all that stuff. So yeah, it's like they turned She-Hulk into this feminazi BS. It's silly, just like in having Megan Thee Stallion in. Oh my god, it's just horrible. DC also went through this cancerous stage where they just turned everything into crap. But granted, DC has always, in my opinion, DC has always struggled to tell stories in terms of, you know, the comics. They have had very weird periods, like that time Batman and Black Canary were together for some reason, and all the multiverse stuff with DC has been even more messy than with Marvel. I don't really think Marvel has had the whole issues with the multiverse as bad as DC. You had the TV shows like The Flash. I really love The Flash, but that show, in my country here in Puerto Rico, we have a word is latoso. Someone who blabbers. And that's the thing with the CW shows. The CW shows blabbered so damn much, and they made Flash look like a complete idiot. The Flash is one of the most difficult Shut up, chicken. Flash is one of the most difficult characters to do a show because he's so fast, and his villains are like... And also, Flash cares a lot about his villains, and so much to the point that they have a rule of not killing him because he's such a good guy, and if you kill Flash, you get the Justice League behind you, and you don't want Superman and Batman to team up and go hunt after you. And Wonder Woman, because she kills every one of her enemies. The point is that DC went on a harsher downward spiral than Marvel did because they didn't have a solid live-action movie universe. They did have solid animation, but in terms of live-action stuff, the people that most people see on the cinema, it's severely lacking. And Zack Snyder didn't help either, because while I did enjoy Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League, Zack Snyder doesn't get Batman and Superman and all these guys. They're not supposed to be these edgy edgelords. No, Superman is meant to be a beacon of hope. Batman is supposed to care about his manic villains because he's a broken person. He's a broken man trying to help other broken people, and because he doesn't want them to suffer like he has suffered. And of course he has the Joker, who is the worst of his villains, and he should have been popped years ago, but whatever, people still love Joker and Harley Quinn and all that stuff. But yeah, DC Comics have gone also on a downward spiral. We have that, the whole, there was that Harley Quinn comic where this guy, he's talking about how hard it is to beat systemic racism, and that's not been a thing since the 60s. It's like, what are you blabbering on about? And also that dude, the trans woman with a bat with a freaking flag saying, "Oh, I'm a trans woman living in Gotham, you know." It's like, shut the hell up, studios. Nobody cares about this stupid crap. And I get really ticked off because it's like, I'm trying to enjoy media. I don't want to be lectured on some BS ideology that is wrong, both morally and naturally. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, they keep shoving it down our throats every time they make it worse, whether it be feminism or some other crap. Stop it, please. Star Trek, you know, I was never into Star Trek as a growing up because I thought it was a copy of Star Wars. Yes, I thought Star Trek was a copy of Star Wars in that it was crap. I never watched it until I started with TNG, and I really loved the show. I really loved TNG. DS9 is my favorite Star Trek show. Voyager, and it's like, Star Trek has always had political themes woven into it, but they are in the future. They are presenting people of the future, and they deal with this on a mature way. For example, that episode of DS9 where Ezri Dax is reconnected with another of her species. You know, the slugs that I forget the name of the species that Dax is from. They are genderless. They're just slugs. We had that first canonical lesbian kiss. It's not really... Is it though? Because it's like you have 4 people there. It's weird. Anyway, and that was not the point of the show. The point of the show wasn't that, oh, you're both women and you shouldn't be doing that. No, the point was like, it's forbidden for these slugs to repeat things from previous lifetimes because they become stagnant. It wasn't that, and they handle it pretty well. Even if I skip through several things of the kids, I don't really like watching that stuff. So, but yeah, they handled it maturely. And granted, not everything in Star Trek has been handled well. It happens. It's media. You are not gonna score a 100 home run every single time. It happens. But yeah, and then New Trek came about and just brutalized Star Trek. It's like Discovery and Star Trek Picard, and it's like, what is going on here? It's like, what is this crap? And then you have Whoopi Goldberg doing stupid commentary on morning shows. It's just... ever since the pandemic and forwards, it's just been a complete crap show. It's like watching a dumpster that is on fire while it's floating on a river of sewage. It's not a fun period. Now, currently, there's some healing. There's some people still fighting back. But even still, the people who are in power to make the decisions, who manage our franchises, it's just terrible. We have basically zero power. We have to boycott things hard to even make something happen, because even if we protest online, we'll just get called ists and phobes and all that stupid nomenclature. Now recently we have the newest development, the newest franchise to fall. Warhammer in general, actually, because with Warhammer, it's a very sad case because it was one of the last bastions that it remained. Like, Warhammer was so hostile to these freaks, I'm just gonna call them that, freaks, that's what they are, that it was untouched, relatively untouched. And then they started doing the rebirth of fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy, and then they added female knights to Bretonia. Bretonia in the lore is a nation that is very patriarchal, and it's also based on the romantic chivalry thingy that was introduced to France that gave us Lancelot. So yeah, if a woman were to be on a military camp of Bretonia, all things would come to a standstill. It would just, because they have to be the most considerate towards women. That's part of Bretonian culture. And now we have female custodies in 40k, because if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Another hobby, I don't partake in the hobby of collecting minifigures, but I do love the Warhammer 40,000 lore. I love watching videos about it. I love Major Kill and watching his videos, and I love seeing Arch doing his own videos. I love the lore aspect about Warhammer in general. I love Gotrek and Felix, and I'm reading listening to the audiobooks. I love that, but the problem is that these people don't care about the franchises. They don't care about the lore. They don't care about making money, because they want to destroy everything that we love. That's their goal. It's not about inclusivity. It's not about diversity. It's not about any of that. If it was at least making money, then I would understand. But they don't make money because why? The people they're targeting don't watch the product. They don't consume the product. You won't have girls interested in Warhammer just because you give them female custodies. You know who is interested in Warhammer? Men. The great majority of Warhammer fans are men. And men like what men like. We like big guns, we like explosions, and we love pretty ladies. But not necessarily... It's like, we are very passionate about certain things. So like, no, the custodies have been mentioned. Look, they are the sons of noble houses of Terra. And they were genetically altered. The Space Marines cannot be women because they are genetically related to the Primarchs. They are based on them, and they imitate a lot of things about them. So if a woman was to be made into a Space Marine, she would basically turn into a dude. And that's not what you're going for. It's like, what is this obsession? It's like, you would think, what is this obsession with making everything, oh, diverse, we need to include more people. Who is this for? The fans don't care about that. The fans don't want to have a female Space Marine Custodes thing. And the ones that do aren't really, are the so-called tourists. Because they're retconning the lore. They're controlling, like, oh no, there has always been females. No, there hasn't. Stop lying. Warhammer has been around for like what? 30, 40 years? And there has never been a mention of female Space Marines or female Custodes. There was a mention of human elder hybrids, and sorry for that knocking. And the thing is that they don't care about all the things that we love. They don't care about that. All they want to do is manipulate things and make them more diverse because they have to fulfill a quota. That's not true diversity, okay? It's like making movies about England. You get a movie about England set in the 10th century. There were no black people there. And if there were, it was like, what, 1 or 2 people that somehow made it over there? It's like, it's... Why? Why are you obsessed with this? And the answer is, they hate us. They hate everything we do. They hate our happiness. They hate that we love this, that we are passionate about this. Because they want to push and claw their way into everything they want until they control it. And I know people are going to be like, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory if it's true. We're seeing this everywhere. Movies, even in anime, freaking anime, which was one of the last bastions of unabashed, do whatever the hell you want. I mean, anime freaking has stories about siblings falling in love with each other, and they do it in the stories. They do it. It's like, oh my god, you can think that it's wrong, and yes, it is wrong. But the point about freedom of it's like everyone can do whatever the hell they want without feeling that they have to just follow that to the letter. You do whatever you want, fine. Don't hurt anybody. It's like the thing. It's like, I may not agree with the LGBT freaks, because and that's what they are right now. They're not a community, just a mob. And they're like, oh no, you have to accept it. It's like, accept that I don't like what you're doing because I fear for your soul. I get really worked out about this because this is what I love. I love watching this. This is what I watch. This is what I grew up with. And to have it all being ripped apart and stomped on. And I don't care about the dogs because I'm really pissed off right now discussing this. And I don't care about the noise outside. I want you to listen to the words that I'm saying. They won't stop. Protect your fan base. Protect whatever you're passionate about. Protect it. Because sooner or later, they will get their hands on it. And they will destroy it. They will infect it with what we call now the woke virus. And yes, they're like, oh, the buzzwords. Shut up. I don't care about buzzwords. I don't care about that. Protect your hobby. Protect your fan base. Because at the end of the day, you are what stands in front of every single thing that wants to destroy it. You, the fan, you hold the line, you hold the gate. And to take a quote out of Warhammer, the franchise broke before the fan base did. Hold the line. Don't let your hobby, don't let your whatever you're passionate about. Could be a book series, could be comic series, could be an anime series, could be cartoon, could be a live action series. I don't care. Protect it. Because bad actors will come and they will destroy everything that you love. This has been ADG, and I will see you guys on the next one. Even if you see me looking to the side, it's because the screen is on this side and the camera is right in front. Goodbye.